This implies that the funds that were meant for agripreneurs, whose role was to enumerate farmers and organize them into SACCOs, was not adequately utilized. B. Each ward SACCO was meant to get Kenya shillings 1 million, yet the committee found that out of the 19 SACCOs under the program, only 7 have ever received financial support since the inception of the fund. C. It is further indicated in the report that some SACCO received nominal support in kind in form of office furniture and some farm inputs, while others have never received any support. D. Even those SACCOs and farmer producer organizations which received support in kind did not receive delivery notes when the furniture, computers, and other supplies were delivered, and they cannot therefore ascertain the prices, source, and therefore quality of what was supplied. E. The procurement of furniture and equipment under the NAVCDP program was conducted centrally with minimal involvement of key stakeholders. This does not only undermine the principle of transparency in procurement, decision-making, and lack of ownership, but also created room for pilferage and misappropriation of the fund. 13. The office furniture and equipment supplied under the NAVCDP program are largely of substandard quality. There was therefore no value for money and compliance with the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act 2015, particularly Section 124, which obligates the procuring entity to select quality and cost-based selection, QCBS method, as the preferred method to be used to evaluate proposals. 14. The manner in which the few projects which were implemented was done shows that they were done without following the project implementation manual published by the World Bank to guide the implementation of the projects. 15. Again, the governor shirked his overall responsibility under Article 179(4) of the Constitution and Section 30, subsection 3(F) of the County Governments Act 2012 to be accountable for the management and use of county resources. 16. There is evidence that the governor has been ordering withdrawals from the fund for reasons other than those for which the fund was created by the donor. Evidence of this shall be availed at the hearing and consideration of this motion. The mover will as well be asking the Assembly to issue an order under Article 195, Subarticle 2B of the Constitution, and Section 27, Subsection 1C, and Subsection 2 of the County Assembly's Powers and Privileges Act 2017, compelling the relevant banks where the funds were drawn from to furnish this House with the bank statements showing the withdrawals of the funds from 2023 to date. 3. Misappropriation of funds and unfair distribution of projects under the Financing Locally Led Climate Action, FLOCA Fund. 17. On various dates between the year 2023 and 2025, the Governor has violated the provisions of Articles 10, 179, 183, 201, 207, and 208 of the Constitution, and Sections 102 and 107 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, and Section 30, subsection 3(F) of the County Governments Act 2012 by presiding over unfair, skewed, and nepotic distribution of projects under FLOCA funds, imprudent use, misappropriation, and misallocation of FLOCA funds as follows. A. Skewed and unfair distribution of projects under the fund with the Governor's home ward, namely Chemosot Ward, alone, getting projects worth Kenya shillings 21,701,590, while there are many other wards, not only in other sub-counties, but even in the Bureti sub-county, which have received not a single project under the fund. This nepotically skewed distribution of projects under the fund violates the national values and principles of governance under Article 10 of the Constitution, and in particular, the values of equity, non-discrimination, equality, good governance, integrity, transparency and accountability, the principles of public finance under Chapter 12 of the Constitution, as well as the provisions of Sections 102 and 107 of the Public Finance Management Act, which enjoins the governor to ensure fiscal responsibility and adherence to the values and principles of the Constitution in the management of the county funds. B, the Joint Committee on Water and Sanitation and Environment, Energy, Forestry and Natural Resources, in their report on the implementation status of FLOCA programs, noted that some projects under the fund, namely Chemomul Water Project in Kabianga, water and environment projects in Seretut, Cheptororiet Ward, Torachthani Cooperative Society Milk Cooling Plant in Kapsaos Ward, Soliat Water Tree Nursery Establishment Project in Soliat Ward, Arndonyo Mare Borehole Water Project, and Lelaitich Water Project in Soliat Ward are marked as 100% complete, yet there are either defects in the works, incomplete and substandard works. 18, as a result of this unfair distribution of projects, wards like Cheplanget, Litain, Chaik, Kipchebor, Chilchila, and Kunyak did not get even a single project in all the categories under the fund, namely environment, agriculture, and water. 4, misappropriation of county funds and Equalizer Kazi Mtaani initiative. 19, on or about 31st of August 2023, the governor engaged in gross violation of Articles 10, 183, 201, 207, and 208 of the Constitution, and Sections 102, 109, and 110 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 by launching a program dubbed Equalizer Kazi Mtaani initiative and drawing county funds towards the initiative without a legislation to anchor the initiative, public participation, prior approval of the county assembly and the controller of budget, and prior approval of the budget and appropriation committee's approval. 20, under the fund, a total of Kenya shillings 39 million were paid without proper tendering, local service orders, and for the services which were not delivered. 20, the county assembly's report on the ad hoc committee on Kazi Mtaani project pointed out various violations of the Constitution and the law in the rolling out and implementation of the initiative. However, the governor deliberately disregarded the report and it has hitherto not been implemented. 22, the deliberate failure, omission, and unwillingness to implement the report of the County Assembly on Equalizer Kazi Mtaani initiative undermines devolution, the doctrine of separation of powers, and is therefore antithetical to the values and principles of governance under Article 10 of the Constitution, the objects of devolution, and under Article 174 of the Constitution. 5, misappropriation of funds under the Strategic Intervention Projects, SIPs. 23, in various dates during the financial year 24-25, the governor engaged in gross violation of Articles 10, 183, 201, 207, and 208 of the Constitution, and Sections 102, 109, and 110 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 by overseeing misappropriation of various projects under the Strategic Intervention Projects CIP Fund. 24, for instance, the project for upgrading of Kunyak Dispensary to Health Center, which is a retender project for the construction and renovation of various facilities within the health center by Messrs. Belitra Enterprises Limited for Kenya shillings 44,756,846. A total of Kenya shillings 8,575,186 has been paid for no works done. Indeed, when the County Assembly's Committee on Implementation visited the site, they found that the contractor had only supplied materials, contrary to the Finance Department's report to the Assembly that kitchen and staff house was at walling stage, while the MCH is at slab level. 6. Other violations of the Constitution and the law. 25. The present and former Chief Executive Committee members and chief officers have variously reported coercion by the governor to make financial allocations for the governor's own use from the funds allocated to their respective departments, and which funds they were required to remit through the governor's personal assistants. 26. Violation of Article 201A, D, and E of the Constitution, 2010, on principles of public finance, and Article 226, as read with Article 227 of the Constitution, by presiding over glaring irregularities evidenced by A. Irregular award of contracts and evasion of accountability, B. Willfully interfering in the procurement processes and the award of tenders, C. Skewed tender awards to various contractors at inflated rates and in collusion with fraudulent contractors and suppliers, D. Irregular implementation and unfair distribution of various programs in the county, E. Intentionally and negligently presiding over massive theft of county public funds, as evidenced by the Auditor General's reports for the preceding financial years, which have raised red flags over various projects. 27. On 15th August 2023, the governor compensated the victims of Londiani accident from the County Emergency Fund to cover up for the funds raised by the public and misappropriated by a committee he had formed to steer the funds drive, and without a cogent explanation of how the funds publicly raised for the victims had been expended. Allegation number 2, misappropriating and or abetting misappropriation of the funds publicly raised for the victims of Londiani accident. 1. On various dates between 4th July 2023 and 9th July 2023, the governor grossly violated the provisions of Article 10, 73, and 75 of the Constitution and Sections 29 and 34 of the Leadership and Integrity Act 2012 by A. Overseeing misappropriation of the funds raised for the victims of the horrendous Londiani Junction accident tragedy, in which over Kenya shillings 9 million of public raised funds were lost. B. Reneging on his undertaking to implement the report of the County Assembly's ad hoc committee formed to probe the misappropriation of funds meant for the victims of the accident. There is evidence that the governor filed a suit and or supported a suit by those implicated in the report of the County Assembly's ad hoc committee in Kericho Employment and Labor Relations Court petition number E006 of 2023, Dr. Wesley Bor and 5 others versus the governor, Kericho County Government and others, and Kericho ELRC petition number E014 of 2023, Victor Tum and others versus the governor, Kericho County and others. C. Being personally and directly complicit in the flawed award of direct tenders for service providers during the fundraiser and requiem mass of the victims of the accident. D. The county governor has in this regard committed numerous and various acts in the course of his duties that are contrary to and in violation of the Constitution and the laws of Kenya. These include: 1. The authenticity of various payments made cannot be confirmed. The fact that the exact amount of money expended from the sum collected during the fundraiser points to impropriety and suggests a clear fraud on those whom the funds ought to have benefited. 2. A total of Kenya shillings 13,682,660 was collected at the fundraiser. A sum of Kenya shillings 400 723,000 was purportedly expended as pastors facilitation, transport refund, field preparation, lunches and refreshments, printing, publishing, and radio announcements. Other payments that were approved from the fund were Kericho County Referral Hospital, Kenya shillings 2,037,524, Londiani Hospital, Kenya shillings 1,534,190, Supertix Limited, Kenya shillings 2,945,000, Supershine Limited, Kenya shillings 411,000, Raise Hotel, Kenya shillings 100,000, County Commissioners Fuel, Kenya shillings 300,000. 3. That when Kenyans from all walks of life voluntarily made contributions to aid the victims of the tragedy, it was never intended or anticipated that the funds would be misappropriated with the blessings of the governor, who had a higher calling to ensure the money is accounted for to the last coin and on whom the people bestowed their trust. 4. The governor issued contradictory statements insofar as the use of the funds is concerned. The contradictory statements point to his being complicit in the matter. 5. While the governor is on record indicating that the medical bills for all the victims would be waived and taken care of by the county government, it is clear why money had to be paid out from the fund collected to various public hospitals against the express and unequivocal representations of the governor. E. By his acts of omission and commission, the governor has grossly violated the provisions of Article 75 of the Constitution, which demands that a state officer shall, whether in private or in public, behave in a manner that avoids conflict of interest between personal interests and public or official interests, or compromises public interest in favor of personal interest. F. By overseeing the misappropriation of the funds aimed at assisting the victims of the accident, the governor violated Article 73 sub-article 2, which demands from him selfless service based solely on public interest, demonstrated by honesty in the execution of his duties, accountability to the public for decisions and actions, and discipline and commitment in service. G. By allowing himself to be a master of doublespeak in such a grave matter that shook the conscience of the nation, the governor violated Article 73, sub-article A, Roman 2 and 3 of the Constitution, which demand that he at all times demonstrates respect to the people and brings honor and dignity to the office he holds. H. By allowing himself and senior officials close to him to benefit from the funds, the governor violated Article 76, sub-article 2b of the Constitution, which prohibits a state officer from accepting a benefit in circumstances that compromise the integrity of the state officer. I. By failing to ensure that decision-making in the executive of the county governor are not influenced by corruption, nepotism, and other callous and improper motives, the governor has failed to exercise objectivity and impartiality, thus violating Article 73, sub-article 2b of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Ground 2, abuse of office. The particulars of this ground are as follows. Allegation 1, illegal appointments, unlawful dismissals and transfers, and usurpation of the constitutional and statutory functions of county public service. The governor has variously engaged in 1, gross misconduct, and 2, gross violations of Articles 10, 73, 75, 232, 235, and 236 of the Constitution. 3, gross violations of Section 17 of the Public Officer Ethics Act, Sections 55, 59, 59A, 60, 62, 63, 64, and 65 of the County Governments Act, Section 4 of the Public Appointments County Assemblies Approval Act 2017, and variously abused his office by A, skewed, uncompetitive, and nepotic appointments of the county employees of various cadres. For instance, the governor recently hired his own brother, one Victor Mutai, as a revenue clerk. Similarly, the governor's personal assistant's wife, Wan Chepkirui Mercy, was recently hired as a nurse on contract basis. Who was recently hired as a nurse on contract basis was confirmed, yet there are a number of nursing staff who have been serving on contract for long without confirmation. B, illegally appointing one Mrs. Alice Bett, now Judge of the High Court, as the county attorney when there was a substantive office holder, an act which the Employment and Labor Relations Court, the Honorable Lady Justice Wasilwa, affirmed was irregular, unprocedural, and unlawful in the case of Sang versus Governor Kericho County and two others, petition E001 of 2023. In that case, the governor was found by the court to be in gross violation of Article 73 and 232 of the Constitution. His actions found to be illegal and unconstitutional, and ordered to pay costs of Kenya shillings 2 million and costs personally. The governor has therefore been already adjudged to be in gross violation of the law and all the Assembly and the Senate. C, causing the advertisement of the positions of doctors, nurses, early childhood education, ECDE teachers, just to endear himself politically when he knew the county government did not have capacity to hire. The applicants were subsequently not shortlisted, nor the alleged vacancies filled up. D, illegally deploying health staff via the notice dated 22nd of July 2024 without any justification, authority, and involvement of County Service Board, thus creating a crisis in the health sector. E, since his assumption of office, the governor has dismissed a total of 10 County Executive Committee CEC members, 6 chief officers, 2 chiefs of staff, among other senior staff, without any cause or reason, thus exposing the county to protracted litigation and the risk of huge compensation in damages. The governor has perpetuated this firing spree, not for any reason, but as a show of might, power, and authority, and that is where the abuse lies. Allegation 2, subversion, discrediting, and impeding of the oversight role of the County Assembly. On 3rd September 2024, the governor engaged in 1, gross misconduct, and 2, grossly violated the provisions of Articles 10, 73, 75, 174, and 185(3) of the Constitution, and abused his office by writing to the Speaker, purporting to direct the Speaker on, among other things, the timelines the Speaker should give the chief officers who are summoned by the Assembly for questioning in exercise of the Assembly's oversight mandate. Ground 3, gross misconduct. The particulars of this ground are as follows. Allegation 1, bullying, incitement, vilification of people and county staff. On various occasions, the governor has repeatedly engaged in 1, gross misconduct, and 2, gross violation of the provisions of Articles 10, 73, and 75 of the Constitution, and Sections 29 and 34 of the Leadership and Integrity Act by A, the governor has been operating with impunity as though he is above the law. On the second day of being sworn into office, the governor led a mob to invade a private land owned by one Mr. Josiah Kiplangat Kogo within Kericho town and tore down the fence. The governor has since designated the subject land as an illegal dump site operated by the county government without the consent of the registered proprietor, the National Environment Management Authority NEMA approval, gazettement by the county designating the parcel as a dump site, and in total disregard of a court order issued by the Environment and Land Court in the case of Kericho, in Kericho in ELC petition number E001 of 2022, Josiah Kiplangat Kogo versus County Government of Kericho. The governor has also obstructed the enforcement of the orders by the police administration. The actions are illegal, contemptuous to the authority and dignity of the court and the rule of law, unethical, and demeaning the office the governor holds. Further, as a result of the illegal actions of the governor, the county was condemned to pay the costs. B, none of the dismissed CECs, CEOs, and chiefs of staff and other senior county staff were given fair administrative, due process, and hearing, thus violating the provisions of Articles 41, 47, and 51 of the Constitution. C, the governor has persistently intimidated, molested, harassed county officers who do not sing to his tune, leaving officers jittery and creating an atmosphere of fear, uncertainty, and despondency in the county, and thus creating a toxic work environment. This violates the provisions of Sections 11 and 13 of the Leadership and Integrity Act 2012. D, the governor has persistently used divisive and unbecoming language which undermines the office he holds, contrary to Section 8 of the Leadership and Integrity Act 2012. And E, the acts of the governor enumerated above have collectively brought dishonor and disrepute into the office of the governor in violation of Chapter 6 of the Constitution and the Leadership and Integrity Act 2012. The Honorable Dr. Eric Kipkoech Mutai, how do you plead to the three grounds? How do you plead to ground 1? How do you plead to ground 2? How do you plead to ground 3?
Governor, you may be seated.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Now I'll call upon the County Assembly. So the County Assembly, you have 30 minutes to make your opening statement. Thereafter, it will be followed by the Governor's opening statement. It will also take 30 minutes.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Before we make the opening statement, there are certain preliminary matters that the County Assembly wished to raise. So with your permission, Mr. Speaker, I wish to be given the opportunity to raise them first.
You may proceed.
Thank you so much. Mr. Speaker, allow me to begin by raising the fairly simple and straightforward preliminary issue. By letter dated 24th August 2025 by the firm of HK Advocates on behalf of the County Assembly. Sorry, the record may not have captured my name. My name is Elisha Ongoya for the County Assembly of Kericho. And I think for members of the Senate on light note, Mr. Speaker, who may wonder whether Mr. Mutuma and I are actually on this side, we may say that the Kabrang rule has placed us this side today. Mr. Speaker knows that better than I do. By letter dated 24th August 2025, H&K Law Advocates, acting for the County Assembly of Kericho, requested the clerk of this house to make special arrangements for one witness who suffers a physical disability in the nature of mobility impairment when that time comes. So that we don't struggle at the last minute, I would wish that Mr. Speaker directs that those arrangements be made as and when that witness is required to be put on the stand.
Yeah, those arrangements are going to be made.
Thank you so much. The second preliminary issue is also relating to another letter dated 24th August 2025 and addressed the clerk of this house. Just for context, you'll notice that among the filings made by the governor in his defense was a notice of preliminary objection, which was brought to the attention of the County Assembly when the documents were being exchanged at the clerk's designated area. In the circumstances, the County Assembly wrote to this house informing it that it will be seeking the leave of this house to file a response to the notice of preliminary objection.
I think, Council, that PO hasn't been raised yet. It's on record, but it's yet to be raised.
Thank you.
So you'll be given an opportunity to make that application once that PO has actually been raised.
Thank you. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, the final is a set of documents that we also wish to be permitted to be circulated to the senators. I'll just lay a brief context for this. There are documents which, Mr. Speaker, when you are informing the senators, you drew their attention to the documents that the County Assembly brought to this house accompanying the resolution of the County Assembly. Some of those documents, unfortunately, when we are now preparing the volumes for circulation, because of the number of volumes involved, were omitted among the documents that were delivered, and other documents were also referred to the various witness affidavits, and those documents were also omitted when we were producing the volumes because of the sheer number of volumes that were being produced. If you give me permission, Mr. Speaker, I can then draw your attention to the specific documents so that then you can consider whether or not to allow them.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, you'll remember you read among the documents that the County Assembly presented to this Senate as payment vouchers for the Department of Agriculture. You also read payment vouchers for the Department of Lands and Physical Planning. Those documents, although accompanying the motion and duly presented to the Office of Speaker, were not reproduced in the volumes that have been given to the honorable senators. We beseech you to grant us leave to have those documents circulated among the senators. We also have documents that are mentioned in the various witness affidavits, but which unfortunately were not reproduced when the volumes were being made. By name, we have a staff redeployment memo dated 10th January 2025, an internal memo of the County Government of Kericho. We have certain printouts of M-Pesa statements that are referred to in the affidavit of Eric Koech. We have the letter dated 21st August 2025 with regard to the report of the ad hoc committee on Kazi Mtaani, which, Mr. Speaker, you have alluded to. It is referred to in the affidavit of the motion mover. We have certain RTGS payment extracts that are referred to in the affidavit of Albert Koech. We have the termination letter of Enoch Koech that is referred to in the affidavit of Eric Koech. We have an invitation for a meeting with the Joint County Assembly Committee on Water and Sanitation and Environment and Forestry and Natural Resources and Minutes. The committee report of that committee, my apologies, the report of that committee is before this House, but only the invitation letter that was omitted in the course of the photocopying. Then we have bundles of invitation letters dated 18th July 2025 to appear before the ad hoc committee of the County Assembly of Kericho on fictitious payments. Again, the report of that committee is already before this House. So the only documents that were omitted were the invitation letters, which we seek that you permit to be presented to this House so that we have a complete record. Then finally, Mr. Speaker, we have certain photographs and an attendant certificate of electronic evidence. The photographs are referred to in the affidavit of Kiprotich Rogoni, and the certificate of electronic evidence is also in that affidavit, but unfortunately, in the course of mass production of the documents, they were omitted. Those documents, Mr. Speaker, we beseech you to allow the senators to have access to them so that we can have a comprehensive view of the situation. The other documents are the ones, as I alluded to earlier, relating to the answer to the PO. I would suspend dealing with those ones as director of the Speaker, and I'll deal with them as and when that PO becomes a relevant issue before this House. My learned colleague should draw my attention to something so that we don't waste time. I'll ask him just to present it to the Senate right away so that the Senate can make a decision.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. For record purposes, my name is Elias Mutuma. I just wanted to confirm that the documents that my learned senior has alluded to have already been supplied to Council for the Governor through email yesterday, and physical copies were delivered this morning. Thank you.
Council for the Governor, do you have any objections to that request?
Mr. Speaker, sir, and honorable senators, we very strongly object. We very strongly object. It is true that we were Mr. Speaker, sir, we strongly object to the attempt to introduce new evidence at this point. It is true that this morning, as we were waiting to walk in here, we were served with the documents referred to by my colleague. Mr. Speaker, sir, the first point of our objection is that we will not have had an opportunity to have looked at them and to prepare ourselves to respond to them, considering that today is scheduled for hearing. The second objection, Mr. Speaker, sir, is that you already gave a timetable within which the filings were to be done,